Welcome to On the Red Carpet with Tick Podcast, the premier podcast for Xbox One. Today we have with us Seth from SeithCG, creator of Ghosts of a Tale, the idea Xbox program game that we've all been clamoring for. A lot of us have been thinking about this game for a very long time, and I'm really happy to have him on the show. We are excited to learn more about your game, Seth, and why this little mouse is on this adventure. Seth, tell us about Ghost of a Tale, and how did you come up with this game?
Well, I mean, first, thank you, for having me on your podcast. The game, is really a kind of an action RPG, and it's as you said, you play a little mouse. His name is Tilo, and it's a medieval world which is only populated by animals. There are no human beings, it's a game that I started working on in 2013, where I decided to really give up, on my day job basically, and started working full time on that.
Wow.
And yes, that it's not only an adventure for Tilo, it's an adventure for me as well, because it's the first time I work on a game.
Right.
I'm not coming from the video game business side, so I'm more comfortable with movies, because that was my day job. It was really a jump, in the unknown, when I started working on Ghost of a Tale. But so it's just about this mouse, Tilo, who's a minstrel. So he's really not a warrior. He cannot, attack enemies or kill enemies or stuff, because physically they're much stronger than he is. And so it's about making your way in the world unnoticed, or trying to hide at the right point. But it's also really about exploration. So you're free to go wherever you see, and to manage your progress as you want. I mean, you can try and be more bold and try and escape from the rats, for example, but because you run much faster than they do. Or you just want to be more discreet and just hide. So,
I really like the idea of this game. The fact that it's an RPG in itself, as a fan of RPGs, it has me really intrigued now. Because initially, I just thought it was kind of like a dungeon crawling adventure. You get, you have an opportunity to play as a mouse, and as a mouse, it affords you certain things, be able to get into tight spaces or crawl underneath things, and stuff like that. But when you watch the trailers, I see him with the sword, so I was kind of surprised that really he doesn't attack anything.
No, it's really, that's something that I really wanted to do. And the very first trailer that I released during the Indiegogo campaign, the crowdfunding campaign, was very different from what the game is today. Because when I did that, I really, I was just starting working. I was learning to code and to do all this stuff. So obviously the easiest way to interact with characters in the game is by having, the player attack the other characters, like hitting them or shooting at them or whatever. I mean, that's the basic stuff. But once I went through that and I said, okay, technically, okay, yes, I could do that. But then I started to show, the trailer, and people were reacting more like they wanted to see what makes this game different from the others, and exploiting the nature of the mouse nature of Tilo. And so it got me thinking, and I'm also kind of a pacifist, so I'm not I don't mind really like first shooters and stuff. I played really a lot of them, and I like them. But if I'm going to spend like 2 or 3 years of my life working on something like that, I would like it to be slightly different. And so that's when I took the decision that Tilo would not be attacking the enemies directly. So all the stuff about hitting the enemies with a sword or a stick or whatever, that's not going to happen in the game. There are some ways to get into a more frontal confrontation situation with the enemies, but we're leaving that to the player. I mean, the game is not designed as a fighting game. It's not like Dark Souls. But you can find ways around things and use the environment, or use some things that can allow you to do a little bit more stuff like that. But it's really, we're leaving that to the player. it's not. But we're just saying clearly that it's not a fighting game.
Right. Well, that's great because all we get is things where you hurt, attack, or kill things.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you refresh you know what's great about games like that is that it makes you use your brain and think and use the character skills as a mouse. I
Yes,
think
yeah, I think it's more interesting than just the straight, attacking and killing stuff. And again, I have no problem with that. I mean, games need to be very diverse, and I'm not saying, oh, no, it shouldn't, no,
right.
violence, not good. No, I enjoy, blowing stuff up in games. But for Ghost of a Tale, that was not the right way to go. It was much more interesting to play on the fact that Tilo is much smaller than the rats. Tilo being a mouse, smaller than the rats. The rats are like towering giants. They are more than 2 meters high. But they're also slower than you are. So you can run on all fours, very, very quickly, not for a very long time. So you have to manage that as well. But it's more, you have more ways to approach a situation. But it's definitely not about blowing things up or killing the enemies.
Nice. Now, Seth, I think you're the only person that's been working on this game. Am I correct?
For a long time I was, but after the Indiegogo campaign, I got in touch with 3 other people which have been helping me, so far, and it's been really, really great because, as you know, when you work on your own on a game, you can get very, very lonely, and you might lose sight, of some things that are, important and so. So I mean, I'm very happy to be really to have the help of 3 guys, and I just want to take a little moment to talk about them. The first one is Paul. So Paul Gardner, and he's a professional game designer.
Nice.
So that was really helpful for me because, as I told you, I'm not a game designer. By profession, I'm not. I'm originally an animator, and I took care of some teams, and directing animation on some movies and all this stuff, which is all great, but it's nothing to do with games. So Paul is also a writer. He's a published writer who wrote some comics and stuff. So he's really a great help. And then there is Cyril, who is a coder, like a professional, a programmer. Right. And he's really helped me, taking care of technical side of things like data management and saving and loading and all the stuff that needs to be there and that needs to work, to work perfectly. But which I don't have necessarily to do myself, so that basically that gives me more time to focus on other aspects, maybe a little bit more creative, on the game. Right. And so that's really super helpful. And then finally there is Jeremiah Pena, who is the composer for the game, and he wrote all the music that you hear in the trailers. And he's really extremely talented, and it's a joy to be able to work with people like that, because for many years I've worked in big teams. When you work on a movie, you're really a cog, in the whole system, which is okay, which is normal. But in that situation now on Ghost of a Tale, I can do whatever I want. I take my own decisions. I think about things, and then with the help of those people, we go a very, very long way without having to necessarily talk or engage with a lot of producers or go into meetings to justify things. No, it's just about making the thing that we think is best for the game.
I think that's the greatest thing about being an indie developer. That's one of the things that when I speak to indie developers, that is one of the things that they always say. Being able to create what you want to create without people dictating to you what they want.
Right. I mean, and it's normal when you are in a bigger frame, like again, like on a movie, where there are hundreds of people working. Right. Obviously, you need a couple of people who are leading the thing, and especially from a financial point of view, they bear a lot of responsibilities. Necessarily, I mean, they have a saying in what gets done and what doesn't get done. So that's normal. But in a smaller structure, then yes, there is a way for more of a collaborative way of working. and so that it doesn't get so administrative, and you can quickly resolve things. You can be more agile in a sense. So yeah, I really enjoy that very much. After having spent many years into that bigger frame set, it's great to be able to just do things quickly.
I just want to ask about what was your inspiration for Ghost of a Tale? Like, I know when I saw the Gamescom 2014 trailer, the first thing that came to mind was like the Redwall series, like the books. But I figured to ask you since we have you here, what was your inspiration for the setting specifically?
Well, I mean, since I have been an animator for a very long time, in animation there is a long tradition of talking animals.
Mm-hmm.
When you look back, at the very early Disney movies,
right,
and all throughout, even the 90s, the 2000, and the DreamWorks stuff, and even Universal, I think now is doing movies with talking animals. So there is a tradition like that, which is great because it's not. How should I put it? It's not boring realistically as human beings can be to animate. I mean, so there is already something like that, which is much more interesting because it's not real. It's not true. You're not trying to be really faithful to hyper realism or stuff that looks a little bit more like what you see every day. You don't see every day, talking mice or rats, so that's already there's something there. But so beyond that, yes, you were talking about Redwall, the book series by Brian Jack, and but there are a lot of other things that have inspired me. I would say that yes, the Disney movies, the old like Robin Hood, and of course The Secret of NIMH.
Right, I love that. I love that movie.
Yeah. Which was not made by Disney, but Don Bluth. Like he was breaking away from Disney, and so yes, all those stuff. The fact that when I was a kid, when I discovered that you can actually transmit emotions and have a story which you care very much about, and very nice characters who are not necessarily realistic and humans. That was something that always stayed with me, and so when I wanted to start working on the game, I knew that I wanted a setting that would be like fantasy, like medieval setting, with castles and nature and stuff like that. But I also knew that this was done to death. If you look at all the role-playing games, the Dragon Age or whatever. I mean, it's all about same kind of stuff and human beings and elves and dwarves and stuff. And okay, I mean, I like that. I think it's fine. But again, if I'm going to spend years of my life working on something, let's try and do it a little bit different. I'm not saying that I'm reinventing stuff or anything. That's not at all the case. Everything that I'm using or that I'm doing is in a long tradition of books, of movies, of anything that were just using animals as main characters. So yeah, I would say it's that for on the animal side, and then on the purely gameplay side and video game side, I would say it's obviously I always talk about Eco, which is really great, very very poetic game, which I like a lot, and then Legend of Zelda and all this stuff. I really wanted to just make a game where you could immerse yourself in the world and use what I learned in the movie world, and to put it into games so that the visuals and the sets and the characters give you a sense that you're playing you're playing in a coherent world that with a very high visual quality, but also very reactive, very like when you're going to walk in the corridors and look at stuff, anything can be interactive, and you can find out stuff. I mean, what I mean by that is that the sets are, I hope, pretty, but they are also interactive. It's not just, okay, look what I'm doing, it's just wonderful, it's not going to move, you're not going to be able to do anything with it, but it's gorgeous, right? No, I'm not interested in that. I really wanted it to be interactive. I mean, you can burn stuff, you can push things, you can look around, you can, it's I mean, that's what I was trying to do anyway. So sorry, that's a long-winded answer, but yeah.
No, I definitely.
No, it's very informative.
Yeah, it definitely was. I mean, it sounds like you made the world alive, and I think that's important.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to do as much as possible. Of course, you don't have to go overboard so that you're trying to control absolutely everything and to kill yourself and work on very, very small details and that way. But some young developers, they have a tendency to do that, to focus on details very much,
Yeah.
and then find out later on that, well, the overall development has not really advanced, and you need to cut stuff that maybe you have spent time working on and all stuff. This I never had to do on Ghost of a Tale. I always went with deciding what needs to be there, doing a little bit of R&D quickly, not spending too much time on that, see if it works, and if it works, then I would spend more time refining it. But I never worked on some stuff and said, oh no, now I need to cut that. That's not going to work, or this is too much. So I'm very happy about that. I mean, the idea and the vision for the game has remained very much on focus since the very beginning of the development. After I really found out what it was going to be about after the end of the crowdfunding campaign.
Seth, I just want to ask you some, just a little personal background. What are some of the movies you worked on?
Oh, I started working when movies were still hand-drawn, It was, I'm saying that because obviously, nowadays, except on the Japanese side and some artistic movies, everything is done in computers now. But no, I started working at DreamWorks on all their first movies. So there was The Prince of Egypt, The Road to El Dorado, Shark Tale, there was Spirit, there was and recently there was also Despicable Me, but that was for Universal. So that's where I directed the animation of the entire movie. That was a great experience.
Wow.
But yeah, after that, that's when I decided, okay, I love, working movies, and that's great, but I've been interested in games for a very long time. And that's when I decided to really give it a try, meaning I tried a game engine. It was the CryEngine at first. And then it was too complicated for me, and I thought that, well, maybe I just need to give up because maybe you need to have a team with you of a programmer of all this stuff, to be able to do a game, which is normal. But then I tried. I moved on to Unity. I transferred the whole project, to Unity, and then that's when I saw, okay, maybe I can actually, understand, and I can do that.
Right.
And I used to program a little bit in big studios because I wanted to help also the animators doing their job, and so I wrote a bunch of tools, production tools or tools, to help capture animation, for characters and stuff. And so I was not completely a complete beginner in terms of programming, but definitely I had never done anything on the scale of Ghost of a Tale. So so that's when I decided to switch, to go to Ghost of a Tale and do it full time after the success of the crowdfunding campaign.
That's an amazing story. No.
Well, yeah. We'll see later on. We'll see if the game is successful. Then yes, it will be an amazing story.
Yeah, I mean, you name movies that I grew up on. The Prince of Egypt. No, seriously. Like
I still remember going to the theater.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah.
I love those movies. Prince of Egypt, Spirit. Oh my! I'm like blown away. And then Despicable Me, which was an awesome movie. I'm really impressed. I really am impressed.
Well, I'm glad. I'm happy. It's always nice, to hear that what you worked on is appreciated. That's cool.
Awesome. And now you have this amazing looking game coming out. Oh man, I'm really excited to play it.
I mean, kind of like Cal said, this is a really interesting thing because it reminds me of a lot of movies and video games that I grew up with, and stuff that I hold really close to my heart. The main thing that I thought when I saw it was I thought of The Rescuers, which I know is an extremely old film in comparison to a lot of things that you mentioned, but it made me think of that type of thing. And I want to say that I'm really excited to play this because not a lot of games come out nowadays that are really unique. And I'm a unique gamer. I like playing very unique, obscure titles. I get told a lot that I play weird stuff, but I like playing really unique things, and this looks like it is going to be really incredible. But I have two questions for you, and one of which is what I know that you kind of delved into a little bit of why you chose anthropomorphic animals as opposed to humans, but why a mouse in terms of choosing that animal? Why not a cat or something else? And also, this game looks it looks like it could be very interesting for children to play, but is it going to be a kid-friendly game? Because it kind of seems to have some serious, maybe mature undertones there. Um,
Yeah, those are very, very good questions. And actually, so yeah, I will start with the first your first question, which is why a mouse? And well, why a mouse? Because again, I didn't want to do anything that would be how should I put it? Where you would be like this big indestructible powerhouse that you could do a feast of physical strength, or you could kill stuff just by hitting them. So since I knew that I didn't want to go this way, so yeah, what is an animal that is small, agile, that needs to be a little bit smart, to survive and stuff. So yeah, that the mouse was obvious to me, also because there is this long tradition, as you were talking about the Rescuers, the old Disney movie, that those were really using mice as main characters, but they were also talking to other different races of animals. And so that was the reason why I wanted to do a mouse, is because it could also be very fast and use the animal-like quality of running on all fours. Just being able to just run normally, because Tilo, can walk like a human being, of course, like walking and jogging and running. But then you have this superior speed that you can just move, by holding the left trigger, that you can actually, speed, really sprint on all fours, and you find back the animal quality of the character. So so that's why I really wanted to go with a mouse. And also, mice can be cute, and even though, I have to say, I'm not at all pushing the cute aspect of the game. And that's actually a nice segue into your second question, which is, we've seen that when we went to Gamescom. Yes, it was in 2014, I think. And that's when we saw the wide range of reaction from very different people, different backgrounds, different ages. And we had the oldest person who played the game was probably near the 70s, and the youngest one was six years old. And they all found it enticing. I mean, charming a little bit, and they were just they weren't put off by anything. I mean, the adults were not put off thinking that, it's overly cutesy and it's just for kids and it's just boring. They didn't have this reaction, and the kids were also into it, and they were a little bit impressed, by what they saw, because, as you said, there is some dark things, and the rats, can be a bit frightening. But yeah, I was very happy to see that all those people really reacted very well to the game. So it's definitely not what I would call, and maybe wrongly, so forgive me if I don't mean to offend anyone, but Nintendo games, which is more like a Nintendo for me is more really for kids and for sometimes for casual gamers and stuff, and so I didn't want to go completely this way, but at the same time, it's not something like Dark Souls, which is extremely exigent, and extremely difficult, and it can be very frustrating and all stuff. No, because as a gamer, and I think I can relate, to what you were saying about you being a kind of a unique, a gamer interested in unique games, because yes, I also react like this, and I didn't want the game to be completely elitist, if you will.
Mhm.
And on the other side, I didn't want to be completely pandering, to, oh, yeah, no, it's just for kids. It needs to be cute. It needs to be this and that. No, I'm just doing something that I like, And I think it's it's crossing different fields of age ranges and interests. And so, yeah, but you're right when you're saying that it's got some themes that are not especially child friendly. I mean, it talks about stuff about people being locked and separated from the ones they love, and there's a touch of racism also in between the races on the stuff. I
Wow.
mean, it's not we're not hitting the player on the head with that at all. It's just it is part of the world.
Right.
That's the way the world works, and also because the world of Ghost of a Tale is, even though it's entirely populated by animals, obviously the characters feel things and they have desires and they want to achieve stuff, and or they have prejudices and exactly like we do. So yeah, this is in there. It's not, again, it's not like, oh yeah, this is a game about racism or so. Not at all. It's not the point, but it is there. It is part of the thing. So if the player wants to see that or pays attention to that, they will find maybe something interesting to hear. But yeah, it's not. I guess what I mean to say, yeah, it's not just for kids, and it's definitely not trying to be Dark Souls.
I really like the idea of that. It seems like it has a great mature undertone, but not to the point to where you're trying to make a political statement.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right.
And that's
Yeah.
and that's a great thing. I think a lot of games should do things like that as well. Kind of like, not a wake up call, but just to make people aware of certain things. And I think
Yes.
that's a really interesting thing. I just want to ask, you know, with this game, obviously this sounds like a very story driven game. Um, how, I guess you could say, you know, will you have voice actors in the game? How are you going to portray the emotions in the game?
That's a very good question. Um, so first, to answer one of the question, which is, are we going to have voice actors? The answer is no.
Okay.
We don't have voice actors. We are going to have, obviously, it's a role-playing game. You're going to have text and dialogues to read. When you talk to characters, that's the way it works. I mean, you have the text on the screen. But we don't want voice actors because, well, first, I guess when I play role-playing games, games like I'm trying to remember, games like Baldur's Gate, but Pillars of Eternity, or so. Sometimes there are voice actors. Sometimes they're good, and sometimes they're not good. I mean, it's there's everything.
Right.
But what I don't like is that when I read text, if I have to read text, meaning if the voiceover is not complete, for all the character, for all the everything that the character has to say, then I prefer to just not have it and just being able to read, and for the voice of the character to be actually what writers call a voice, which is the way the character speaks, and the fact that one specific character will have a specific way to express themselves. It's not just about speech impediments or particularities of language or stuff. No, it's just that it is consistent from a writing point of view. So I believe we have that, thanks to Paul, who worked very very hard on that, and so yes, I think that the emotion that you were talking about is really something that is going to be coming from the player. It's not overly coming from the game.
Okay.
We're not trying to be, really moving and with the very sad music and setting like that, because first, I think it's manipulative. If it's not very well done, it can be, I don't like it personally. So what we're going to have is situations and stuff happening, and if it resonates with you, you are going to be moved, because if you really understand what it means, then okay, the situation by it in and of itself is going to be moving.
Right.
But we're not going to go out of our way to say, oh, look, this is like a cinematic, this is really, really sad and all this stuff. This is not going to happen because we don't have cinematics in the game. There are no cinematics. The story is only told through the dialogue, through items that you find, through things that you understand, that you piece together, and that is, the story. It's not what some people call like a narrative experience or something
Right.
like that. It's really not trying to be that. It's a little bit old-fashioned in that sense, in that you are really going to have to understand, and it is really playing on the empathy of the player. So
Gotcha.
that's what we're going for anyway.
Anchor, you have any questions?
No, I mean, other than the obvious question of, do you have a general release window you're shooting for? Are you shooting for a year, or just we still haven't decided on that yet?
It is definitely going to be this year. I hope it's going to be in a few months, in a couple of months. But anyway, we're just talking about the pre-release of the game. So the early access, the fact that we're going to be able to release a part of the game, which is probably going to be around 20 to 25% of what the overall game will have to offer. So it's definitely, it's like a first step, but that's what we want to get out fairly soon, in order to get players' feedback, and also, I mean, frankly, to get some money coming in, because that we don't have any publisher, or we don't have anything like this. So we have a very, very, very small budget, and so yes, so this is going to be very important for us to be able to start to have a sense of validation of the choices that have been made. And also, yes, I mean, financially, for me to know, basically, it's going to sound very trite, but was it a good idea, for me to give up my day job, and start working on this game or not?
Right.
So that's going to be very important also for that.
David?
I don't really have any questions, but I did want to thank you for coming on the show, and also kind of get I guess an understanding of this game, because it's something that I'm really excited for. But I am definitely interested in maybe sometime down in the future, if you're able to. We have a Twitch channel that we actually premiere games on and stream games on. I was wondering if maybe you would perhaps like to come on the show at some point whenever we're streaming on Twitch, while we're streaming Ghost of a Tale, and kind of talk to the audience and kind of tell them some design choices or stuff that you had made throughout the game as we're playing it.
Sure, that sounds like it could be very, very interesting. We'll need to see in terms of a time frame, when that can happen, of course, because even though I was just talking about the pre-release, I really want the pre-release to be as bug-free as possible. So I really want the game to be a very nice experience, in the sense that you're not fighting the game. You're not struggling, with the controls or the menus or whatever. So this is going to take a little bit of time to make sure that this really works and that it's really successful. But after, once this is done, why not? Yeah, I mean, we should definitely, stay in touch and talk about that.
Have you thought about Xbox One's preview program? They've had a lot of success with a lot of the games.
Yes, Microsoft talked to me very briefly about that, so I really don't know the details. But they have mentioned that they are now starting to do that, and so I'm not exactly certain the way it works. I mean, is it just for demos, or is it really like an early access?
It's a full game.
It's like early access.
Early access.
Okay.
Yeah. We've been playing Ark, and we love Ark.
I see.
Ark was huge on it.
Game preview has shown a lot of success as well. Like, I'm just looking at Xbox right now, and Ark is actually the 7th most played game on Xbox. A game still in preview.
Yeah, and it's still in preview.
Yeah.
We get Solus Project, I think, next month. We get Solus Project, which is the next game coming to preview, the preview program for Xbox. So it's something that you should definitely take a look at, because you can definitely... and not to make it sound like, it's a money situation, but these type of titles that are unique, they look great, people have been clamoring for it, they will support your game.
Right. No, I think you're right, and I think if it's technically possible, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't happen. Since we're using Unity, I know for a fact that obviously Unity supports Xbox One. I mean, as a matter of fact, we had a build already running on Xbox One, but obviously we need to optimize the thing,
Right.
to make the experience as good as it can be, because we're still, since we're first targeting PC, some PCs can be very, very powerful, like really gaming PCs. So we need to tailor really the experience to the proper platform.
Right.
So it means that basically what it means is that we need time to make sure that it is optimized for Xbox One, and that the game runs very well on that stuff. It's not a matter of controls or anything, because as the game is being designed on PC, I'm using an Xbox One controller.
Nice.
Because it's I think it's really the best controller out there. so that's I mean, I tried quite a few, and I'm super happy with the Xbox One controller, and that's how I'm developing Ghost of a Tale.
Right.
So that's not going to be any problem on that side. It's not going to be like it's a PC port. No, it's working natively on controller.
Nice. That's very interesting. Now, before we head out of here, first of all, I want to thank you for coming on the show. I know that you are working extremely hard to take a time out of your work schedule to chat
That's
with
okay.
us. It's
Thank
really,
you.
really awesome.
Thank you.
Have you thought about, Microsoft is doing this thing with Windows and Xbox and DX12. Has any of that ever come across your desk?
Not really, not precisely at all. I mean, in the sense that I basically, for anything technical on the side of DX11 or DX12. I mean, the game currently is DX11 only.
Mm-hmm.
It's not DX9, which is the reason why it's not compatible with Xbox 360 or the previous generation. Right. But no, I don't. We're not aiming for specifically for DirectX 12, which I think DirectX 12 is on Windows 10 exclusively.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're not doing anything special on that, but I know that Unity, the developers of Unity are working on that stuff. And if it turns out that there is really a technical advantage in terms of performance to be on Windows 10 and to be on DX12, we would do that.
Nice.
But currently, yeah, it's working on PC, basically all the latest generation hardware. Right. So I think we're gonna have an opportunity to go anywhere we want to go in, as long as Unity supports the platform in question.
Awesome. And my final question for you, out of all the games out there, if you could pitch it to the Xbox community and the gamers out there that listen to the show, what makes your game unique and different from others?
That's a difficult question because I don't know, maybe all the other games to be able to really perfectly judge the differences, but I hope that people are going to be surprised and at least intrigued by the visuals. I hope that they're going to be sensitive to, again, I hope the charm that is in the game, and that they're going to see that it's not a typical game in a sense that it's just about killing stuff and destroying things, but at the same time it looks interesting and yeah, on that level, I hope it would stand out from the other games without becoming a walking simulator, or something that looks very pretty, but you don't do much. Right. So I hope it's going to strike a balance that people are going to react to and to be sensitive to. I hope.
Awesome. Well, Seth, I want to thank you for coming on Tick Podcast on the red carpet. I'm very happy that we got a chance to talk to you today and get more information on your game. And
thank you.
I really hope that your project is successful. You have a buyer in me, because I've been interested in this game since day one. And if you have any future projects, you'll come back on the show later on.
Definitely. Thank you very much for having me.
For the fans, by the fans.